Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, welcome to the Luton Town Hopefuls update. It's November the 17th, and the international break has just finished. So, yeah, we're just going to have a look at the teams, see how everybody's doing, and answer a couple of questions which I've got at the end once we've gone through how everybody's doing at the moment. So, basically, at the moment, year to date, looking quite tight at the top. King Adebayo's Magic on 740. In second place, we've got Badlands on 729. Third place, Rain Supercilious on 711. Lozzo's 11 in fourth place on 698. And in fifth place, it's Noobs. Well, on 697 points. Obviously, you'll see that fourth and fourth is, it should be fourth and fifth, but something that I've overlooked. But that will be corrected for next time. November scores so far. We've just finished the international break. And, well, there's a few teams that have obviously had a good week. It's probably due to, I think, Reece James, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Cancelo. They seem to be flying high defensively. And if anybody's got those in their defence, then they obviously are going to find themselves doing quite well so far in the month of November. So at the moment, with some teams have got 3 games left to go, some teams have got 2 games, the ones that are not in Europe. So basically, first place on the month of November so far is Lozzo's 11 on 136. Second place is Dodgy Rogers on 126. Third place is Top of the Tree on 114. Now, the thing is, obviously, I'm just doing an update. I haven't cross-checked my scores with Jeff. If there are any errors on it, I do apologise, but I'm fairly confident that there are no errors. When we get to the end of the month and we confirm the end of the month between myself and Jeff, obviously we're more or less positive that the scores are exact. So I'm quite sure that the scores are exact. So those are the scores. Now, you can only see on the month, 1st to 10th place on this screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change it so you can see the monthly snapshot. All you need to do, pause this video. If you want to see how your team's doing on the month, then you can just pause the video and you can have a look. Because we've got all 39 teams that are in the league now and how they're doing on the month. So we go from 39th at the moment, which is FC Brooklyn's on 35 points, to Lozzo's 11, which is 101 points in front, in first place on 136. So yeah, that's how the month is looking so far for everybody. I've left it on long enough, so you should be able to, like I say, just pause it and you can have a look, see how the teams are doing around you. Go onto the Dream Team website, and once you're on the Dream Team website, you can obviously click on other people's teams that are in the league, have a look at the players that are near or around you. If you've got any transfers left, you can try and attack to try and take over, or you can try and make transfers to defend if there's someone close to you. But like I say, if you try and do that, it could cause problems going forwards, but we'll get to that later on. What we'll now do is we'll go to the knockout. There's 16 teams left in the knockout. The scores for November and December are going to be combined. So when it gets to the end of November, it's not the end of this knockout. These teams that are matched up against each other are going to keep going until the end of December. Now, it's a packed month is December with a lot of fixtures in, so you're quite far behind. You've got a lot of time to catch up, so don't be disheartened if you're in the knockout and you sort of like look and see somebody's about 50 points ahead of you. You can still make it quite easily with a few well-informed transfers. Okay, so we've got Rain Super 1 point ahead of the Blues at the moment, 74 to 73. FC Brooklyn's is not doing too well against Mutt Nuts. Mutt Nuts is on 93. FC Brooklyn's is on 35. You've got Expected to Lose and Hatters in the Toon. Hatters in the Toon are just ahead, 56 to 60. Lozzo's 11 are winning quite handsomely against Finding Midos, so you've got quite a lot of work to do up until the end of December if you want to catch Lozzo's 11s up. Quite a good team, is Lozzo's 11s. He's got set up quite well, so he's going to be very hard to sort out because his players look like they're in form. Cabx 11 and Dave's Coaches, there's only 4 points between them. Dave's Coaches is in the lead at the moment. Ted Stars and Shane Stars, once again, they're all quite close, 54 points to 48 points. Bella in than out and Maple Do Your Job, 4 points, 2 points between them. Maple Do Your Job is winning. Hackers 11 against Searle Town, there's a little bit of a gap there. 75 points, Searle Town is in front of Hackers 11. So, like I say, only a couple of games into a 2-month knockout between those teams. So yeah, good luck to all you guys that are still in the knockout tournament, and hopefully, if you're behind, you can try and make up that difference in the long time that we've got to come. Okay, so we're going to go to the questions now. I do apologise. What we've had a couple of questions that have been sent through today. Actually, I thought we weren't going to get any questions, but they've just popped in right at the last minute. The first question is from. We'll actually do Jeff's question first. Jeff's question was, "What is the best time to make substitutions?" So your transfers. You might be thinking, well, when's the best time to make transfers? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you. I don't really want to show you anybody else's team. You need to go on to the actual mini league to do that. But I'm quite happy to show you my own team. So this is my team. Jeff said, "What's the best time to make substitutions?" Now, I'm quite impatient, and I kind of do quite a lot of subs at the beginning of the month. I'm trying to restrain myself from doing that, but if you have a look at my team, I've made a few transfers at the beginning of the month. I've taken out Lukaku, Matip to start off with right at the beginning. I've put Reece James and Rudiger in for Chelsea. I think Chelsea have got the strongest defence. They've got the best chance of keeping clean sheets. And then obviously I've taken out, because Lukaku's injured, but he might be back this weekend. I've taken out Højbjerg. I've taken out Højbjerg and put Kai Havertz in, because without Lukaku playing, Havertz is going to be hopefully scoring goals. But as you saw a couple of games ago, he scored 7 goals and Havertz didn't even get a sniff. He didn't even get an assist. And I took out Virgil van Dijk for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he gets quite a lot of attacking returns, so I decided to put him in my team. Virgil van Dijk is quite expensive for what he is, 5.4 million. And last season, there were quite a few games in a close period of time where he'd scored quite a lot of headed goals, from set pieces. So it was Trent Alexander-Arnold getting the assist, and he was getting the goals. He scored quite a lot of points. And I think that's the reason why it's reflected in his price this year. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's a luxury. But these transfers, anyway, getting back to Jeff's question, these transfers were made at the beginning of the month. This could also cause problems. So I could say, do your transfers at the beginning of the month. But what seems to have happened now is Bernardo Silva's got himself injured, I think. Hopefully he'll be picked on Sunday when Man City play. And then you've got Robertson for Liverpool. I think he was taken off just before the end of the game, the international game. Was it yesterday that they played? And it was as a precaution, something to do with his hamstring. But Liverpool seems to think that, it's not really a big injury, so he might be available. He might not be available this week, but he would be available soon afterwards. But you never know. Jurgen Klopp could be using a bit of kidology and he could be playing. But he's got a good replacement for him as in Tsimikas. I think Tsimikas is more money than Robertson is now. But he doesn't play. He's like Robertson's understudy. The problem that's caused for me anyway, by making 4 subs is I've only got 1 sub left for the rest of the month. And I might have 2 players that are kind of injured. So by being hasty and putting all those transfers in at the beginning of the month before the international break, anything can happen. 2 of my players have obviously got themselves injured. I've only got 1 sub left, so I'm going to have to. I've got some decisions to make. So, with regards to subs, best time to make subs is when the players that you're bringing in have got a decent run of fixtures where you think they've got a good chance of winning. Also, what you've got to look at is you've got to look at the amount of games that they've got. It's like at the end of this month, if I were making subs just for this month, I'd put in Reece James, Rudiger, Havertz, and Alexander Arnold. All these teams are playing in European competition. Could be playing in cups. So they're going to have more games than teams that are not in Europe. So for the rest of the month, for example, Everton have only got 2 games left for November, and because they're not in Europe, but Chelsea have now got 3 games left. Man United have got 3 games left. Man City have got 3 games left. So yeah, when you're putting your transfers in, the best time is probably at the beginning of the month when you know that a team has got quite a few fixtures that month compared to other teams. And it's also prudent to put a player in that you think is going to be nailed, that's going to be starting every match, even the European matches. So, as you can see from the team that I've got there, I've got Foden, De Bruyne, and Silva. Now, it could be a mistake because Pep likes to rotate his midfielders. So, you know, Foden could be playing 1 game and then get rested for another, De Bruyne as well. Because they've got a wealth of riches in midfield. Um, so, yeah, you need to try and make sure that the players that you put in when you do make your subs are going to play every game if possible, and also that they're going to score points. Some of your teams that are in the league that I've been looking at, they've got like Burnley defenders in there, and it's like, well, Burnley can keep clean sheets, but are they going to keep as many clean sheets as Chelsea? I don't think so. Are they going to keep as many clean sheets as Man City? I don't think so. Those 2 teams at the moment seem to be the go-to for players that you want to put in for your subs. Um, if you've got 5 subs this month left, it might be, and all your players are still fit after the international break. It might be prudent to wait till closer to the end of the month before you make. So let this week's fixtures go, and then possibly even next week's fixtures, and start making transfers for December. Because in December there's going to be teams that are still in the League Cup that might also be in Europe, and I think the last games in Europe's midway through December. Um, and basically try and get players in from those teams when you're making the subs. But if you make substitutions, if you can hold off for this week and next week, and you sort of go for next month, you could try and win the month, but also make gains on the people that are in front of you in the league. Um, so yeah, sort of last game week of this month, start making some subs, and then you've got 5 more subs when the subs reset. And I think it's on the 4th of December. I think it is on the Friday, which I think 30th. When's Thursday? It's the 3rd of December. So the subs reset, and you get another 5 subs. So yeah, if you can wait until then, the end of the month, you've got a possibility of making up to 5 subs at the end of the month to structure your team, have a good attack on December, where there's a lot of fixtures in the run up to Christmas and what have you. One thing that you've got to remember is if you do target a certain team because they've got a run of good fixtures, try and keep a substitute or 2 back. Because, for instance, let's just say you've got African players in December and you put a lot of African players in. In January, it's going to be the African Cup of Nations. And you're going to end up having to take those players out again because they're not going to be playing throughout January, basically, especially if the team does well. Um, so yeah, you need to sort of like it's all about managing your transfers. There's not necessarily a good time or a bad time to make your transfers. It's all geared around when your teams are playing, what how many games they've got compared to other teams, and whether your players are nailed and they're going to play or not. So yeah, it's just one of those. You just got to if you've got transfers left this month, try and wait for another week if you all you play if you've got no injuries, um, and then start thinking about December, bringing in players that are going to give you a good December. If you're ahead in the league like Lozo's 11, he might want to consolidate his position by like looking at who's close to him. There's Dodgy Rogers on top of the tree. He might look at the team and the players that they've got and might think, well, I'll try and block them from overtaking me. But it's a dangerous game because at the end of the day, the players that you've got in your squad, you want to make players that you want for the season. The ideal thing is to set up your team going forwards with players that are just good players all round that are going to be good for the whole season and not just for a month. But obviously, if you're in a bad position where you're really down in the league and you have to make some different choices to the teams that are above you to try and make ground, then obviously that's what you've got to do. But yeah, times in which you play, make your substitutions, make them at the beginning of the month by all means, but make sure that you keep at least two substitutions for if you do get injuries throughout the month, because you could find yourself becoming unstuck and it can get a bit messy. Start losing a lot of ground if you have a little couple of injuries. If you have a lot of substitutions left and you haven't used any, then the end of the month is kind of key because you want to start looking onto the next month to try and get that £110 prize that's given out each month. And then there's the £50 second prize and the £25 third prize for each month. So yeah, end of the month, if you've got 5 transfers left, get them used then. Make your transfers then. So then you've got 5 substitutions going into the beginning of the month. Your team's already set up, and then you can kind of save them for later on in the month. Don't make substitutions willy nilly though. Just because you've got them, don't just make them because I can make a sub now. If your team's good, leave it. The players that you've got in there, especially if you're doing well in the league, the players that you've got are the reason why you're there. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. I've come across like that a couple of times in the past where I've made substitutions where there was really no point, and you start thinking after a game week when you've blanked, and the players that you've taken out, they've made a haul in points, and why did I make that substitution? It's just because they're there and you want to use them. Don't make them willy nilly. Just make sure that each of your substitutions counts. Okay, the other question that we're going to go to before we end this YouTube video, Glenn's asked, is it a good idea to have 3 defenders from the same team in a 3-4-3 formation? Well, do you know what? It's a good idea. It's actually an excellent idea. For instance, this year, Chelsea and Man City have kept more clean sheets than anybody else. So if you had a back 3, or call it a back 4 with a keeper, if they were all Chelsea, you would be quite high up in the league if you had them from the beginning of the season. So yeah, it's a good idea to have 3 from the same team. The only problem is if you look at this month and you look at Lozo's 11, he's made massive inroads and he's right at the top of the table. He's in 4th place now, not far behind King Adebayo's Magic at in 11th. I think about a week or 2 ago, we were right down there. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, João Cancelo. If you had those 3 players, you'd have that sort of scenario. I think Lozzo's 11's probably got one or at least two of those players in there because, yeah, they got quite a lot of attacking returns. Now, if you had all Chelsea defenders, yes, you would do very well, but not as well as if you had the other two, Trent Alexander-Arnold and João Cancelo. You'd have the Reece James points, but then you'd have the clean sheets for Chelsea. But then they let a goal in, didn't they? Was it Norwich that they were playing or something like that? Or Burnley? They let a goal anyway. They drew 1-1 right at the death. So the danger is if you use three players from the same team, all your eggs are in one basket. So all it takes is for that team to have 3, 4 games where they just let in a goal. You basically shafting yourself. Um, so if those players that you put in from the same team, they keep 4 or 5 clean sheets on the trot, and all those players that you've got from that team are all playing, you're making massive points. It's like having a striker that scores every single match. And remember, when your defence at the beginning of each match has got 5 points, it's 5 points that they've got to be taken away by the other team scoring. So if they can stop them from scoring, like you're looking good. So yeah, by all means, get all the same players from the same team in your defence if you can. And if you're thinking in those terms, in a back three formation, why not try a back four formation? It'd probably be even better if you nail it when the teams, keep 4 or 5 clean sheets on the trot, and you've got all the defence and the keeper. That's 25 points to start off with every game. And that's a lot of points. If they play 4 games in a month, that's 100 points just from 5 players, your 4 defenders and your keeper. But like I say, teams that keep clean sheets like that for 4 or 5 games on the trot, the defence generally tends to be quite expensive. So if you've got a full Chelsea back line, for instance, that plays week in, week out, you're probably looking at using at least 25 million of the 50 million budget that you've started with. So you've only got 25 million for another 7 players. And if Harry Kane's 7 point what some million, Mo Salah's 8.1 million, you sort of like fighting around for crumbs to try and build up the rest of your team. So you've got to try, sort of like you can do well in certain parts of your squad, but you've got to make up the difference in other parts of your squad. You've got to find cheap players that enable you to put in all those expensive players. So yeah, if you can go for a team, and if you want to do that, have three players in a back three from the same team. Go for a team that you expect to keep clean sheets. Because if you don't, then like I say, you're going to be shafted. Spread it around. My opinion would be, I mean, as you saw from the transfers that I did, I've got 2 Liverpool defenders. I've got 2 Chelsea defenders in my team in Reign Supercilious. I've kind of mixed it up. I haven't gone for all Chelsea or all Liverpool. I'm going to be looking to get João Cancelo in as well because the thing is he's scoring quite a lot of points and there's a fair few other people that have got him in, and I'm going to end up dropping down the table if I don't have these players that are scoring regularly. And so, yeah, go for 3 players from the same team. But if you can mix it up and get players that you expect, especially wing backs that take corners, that take free kicks, and they're always bombing up, getting assists and stuff like that. Try get them in initially if you can. Too expensive, then obviously you just don't have to go for centre backs. But then try and get centre backs that go up and they have a corner, and you've got a chance of a headed goal. Um, so yeah, go for 3 from the same team. But I personally prefer to try and keep some form of mixture, so that if the team that I've got 2 or 3 defenders from ends up going on a run where they let a goal in every game, then at least I've got other defenders that I can possibly get points from keeping clean sheets. Okay, I think that's the end of this video. That's a mid-month update. Thanks a lot for listening. Once again, at the end of the month, I'll do another video and it'll have the final month scores on. The final month scores, the positions for everybody in the month, which should be nailed once I've checked them over with you. And also we'll sort of like have a quick delve into December and see what that brings with fixtures and what have you. And also on the WhatsApp group, I'll also invite you to put down questions if you want me to, talk about certain things that you want my opinion on. So thanks ever so much. I shall see you probably late evening on the 1st of December. So see you all later, guys, and good luck.